Welcome to my lovely IHP community and the 5D Collective. I was planning to share with you some fun stories, and you know that. But first, being yourself with love versus the charges and pause people. So, if you tune into our previous episode from today, you'll know that those who are charges and pause, they don't take seriously going to heal their trauma. So, we're not going to spend too much time here right now, but the feminine and masculine have been on the agenda, said Guru. Only when the masculine and the feminine play an equal role in our lives will there be beauty and purpose to our existence. Also, another one of his quotes today. Well, the ones who are stuck in the realm of right and wrong, liking, disliking, they will never know the texture of love. So they don't make life partners. They make unhealthy self-worth partners for people who are just like them. And so that's why they follow the same ignorant human beings out there who we see on YouTube. They don't want to mindfully live, love, laugh, none of it. They don't want to learn. They like casting stones. They would love to rule the world so they could tell us women what to do with our bodies and our ovaries and our everythings. And, it's men, women, and days. It's not just the men. So we have plenty of people in cloaks who think that they represent God, and we're going to leave those who are from the ancient history times to where they're meant to be, because they're going to come together like the flat earthers do, and then we have laws that protect us and we maintain physical safety. And then we learn how to be able to be safe, secure, and happy as ourselves, and to find those who are safe, secure men, women, and days. The empowered men and women that I've mentioned to you in the past. The masculine and the feminine are two aspects of who you are. If you are too defined, identified with one part, you will be half alive. So when you meet those who are half alive, you're going to know who they are. When you meet the ones of us who are whole, you're going to know why our twin flames are not a big deal, in the sense of when they don't accept their feminine or not, because the feminine will know that there's more to the story that meets the eye, and that they're going to be getting what they want, and they won't be questioning it, because that's what blind faith means. At least for those of us who come with God, Jesus, and Holy Spirit, and then we become mystics, because I begin with Christianity, Catholicism, and then my clairs open up, which are basically the same as spiritual gifts, but they're also the same as when neuroscientists talk to you about the relational field, and quantum scientists, and all of the sciences. So we all know about the integrated brain, I think, at this point, and a default mode network that is downregulated for people like me, and those of you who will put mindfulness into practice and be empowered people. You own your sense of self, so it means you don't have tricks up your sleeve, which means you don't switch and change it up when you're in a crowd of men. And so one of the ways you can learn about masculines is when they're, in this case for the men, that I can tell you are all masculines, when they're with other men. And I'm going to notice if they're facades, like my facade friend. And so all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I find out that there's a completely different person behind the scenes. When that happens, a feminine recalibrates, because now that we know we have a pretender, we are aware that we're not really building what is a heart-to-heart relationship. We're building a heart to something that involves their 0 to 8-year-old, and then it involves their teenager, who, when is with peers, allows the peers to dictate how they're going to behave and how they're going to talk to you and how they're going to talk and do anything. So you allow yourself as a feminine to remember always, at least in my case, I'm 4'9". So to me, that makes a difference, because an empowered feminine who's bigger might have a different way that they will be feeling they want to engage in that. But at the same time, any feminine is going to be non-reactive, because, well, here's another quote. Let me go grab Sadhguru. Being a leader, because I only talk to the ones of you who want to lead your own selves, not the ones who want to follow copycat and all that other stuff that insecure attachment people do, because they don't go and get themselves reparented. So they're going to follow any other person who is a charge and a pause self and has the whole right and wrong, and we want to rule the world. And being a leader does not mean dominating the situation. It means empowering people to do what they would not have imagined possible. Okay, so one of my most fun masculine stories, and it's not with my twin flames. And it's going to be something I'm going to try and keep vague, but it's one of my oversoul members. And that's because of their own welcoming of differences. So when people welcome who they are, and then they welcome people for who they are, and they have the capacity to have empathy, and they have the capacity to make their home, their own physical home, and their own voice and their own person, a welcoming environment, now you have a leader. And if they're a man, all the better, because they're also a protector, and they won't switch it up depending on which men they're around. In fact, they will know how to be a true man, like a woman will know how to be a true woman. And when you're in a room with women who are acting viciously vicious, you know how to stand in your ventral vagal. And when somebody spots it, you say, "Yeah, I don't do that. I actually don't find it anywhere near appealing, but you know." And you try to tread carefully so that you don't actually get any heated conversation going, but that you allow people to know, yeah, I don't agree with the way that you're dehumanizing, making a man out to be a monster, the way you're talking about everything. This is a lot. And as you continue to notice, they continue to look, and you continue to say, yeah, I don't have that experience, and I actually feel quite safe and happy, and but again, let's allow ourselves to leave it alone, shall we? At the end of the day, in my future, I know exactly what I'm talking about, and so this is where I'm bringing in some of those details. So in my future, I know my future husband from my clairs, from my past lives, and from my future life. So we have astral travel, and people who don't have it, it's okay. You don't have to, again, believe in it. But and so being a leader, side note, means not dominating a situation. Again, empowering people. So when you see a bunch of people ganging up for no other reason except for they've made a decision, which, by the way, is completely hypocrisy, because unhealthy self-worth people, it's just like Diego's family. Anybody remember Diego's family? Okay, imagine there's no, what's his name? Sid and Manny. And that Diego never meets Manny, so he never understands what it means for a true herd to get together. But also, Sid reminds Manny not to judge Diego. And so, any true masculine and feminine doesn't judge another person, because casting any type of stone means you have a judger. It means you got an ignorant person who's a charged person. They're not an empowered masculine or feminine yet. They're just one of the other types of the other team. The other people, they're 3D, 4D. So it's not good or bad. It doesn't change where we're headed, okay? So the empowered, spiritually awakened, feminine, and or masculine, for mystics, will know of our contribution to bringing to each other that which is deemed impossible, but it won't. So I know that in my case, in my twin flames, things happen very differently. And in one case, manifesting it was something that I'm pretty sure I brought, because I did something, which is a prayer, but something that is a very specific prayer I have written down. And then in this case, I'm pretty sure that I got manifested, if you will. Although these are those things that they happen and you don't really talk about it that way with the people. But what I love about this story is that I know you, I walked with you once upon a time, right? Once upon a dream. I know you, the gleam in your eyes is so familiar, gleam. So this individual, I recognized their gleam. They were not the only one I had recognized another person's gleam. And that is the year that I understood what these gleams mean as a mystic. So now I'm aware of it. For my oversoul, even though my oversoul is very specific when it's part of my oversoul versus when it's part of my extended oversoul. It's like having immediate family. They have a direct relationship with other lives that you've had. Versus, okay, I'm related to because we're related in this journey called life, and we're more like extended soulmates that are going to be a part of each other, but really I'm near your branch because there's another person who's on my branch, and those branches are mingling and tingling, and the reality is we're a big collective coming together to support each other. But the gleam for my oversoul member, and then in this case, recognizing eventually who they were in the future, and then being able to come back around when things got really bad, but they weren't getting really bad. The illusion is they're getting really bad. And that's because the illusion is what the lack of aware mystics think of these things as the Zen master with laundry. The lack of aware mystics. The feminines who are not, to me, true feminines because they're distorted, because they have an amygdala leading them, because they have a brain they don't know how to put in the prefrontal, because they don't know how to integrate, because they choose not to, because they choose charges with the squirrel in Cusco land, who's the blamer, martyr superior, in codependent land, who's a person and or human being and or whatever that is a codependent person who doesn't know healthy self-worth and how to self-regulate their 1-year-old, their 3-year-old, and to understand how it works, the human secondary consciousness, which is why that Zen master is dealing with what is really, the existential psychologists talk about it, human dilemma. I don't call it dilemma because I'm a mindfulness, living, loving person who, again, shares with those of you who want self-help, personal development, how to be empowered and enlightened. And I always want to try and remind you that empowerment is the conversation, not pretending. The ones who pretend find emotions hard and difficult, and they drag them. Or they pretend to know what emotions are, and they say the system's trying to imprison you. And that's why they think that being emotionally equanimous means that I have no emotions, or that I'm pretending, or that I'm afraid, which physically I can be afraid. So my biggest moment of beautiful triumph, if you will, or just when I was able to finally realize what I got to observe, was after not only I got to see who my future husband is because of the download I got, but then I also got to participate, have a good time with it, and I got to meet another person who's in our future, and that was fun. Oh, that was amazing. And so being able to stand up and stand next to and be supportive and be there for someone who is completely being given very specific things, not for anything except for what is going to support. That's what I already intuitively knew. But obviously, you don't go sharing that with all people because not all people take this information the same way. In this case, the person is quite intuitive. But they're intuitive to a certain extent because they still have child parts that I don't know how they handle them. Okay, so that's why it's very much not straightforward with your oversoul, in the sense that none of us make the actual difference that any of those who are lack of aware mystics think. The earth doesn't need us, others don't need us. We need each other because we're mammals, but we need healthy self-worth each other because that's what being yourself with love is, and that's what a life partner is. And anybody who is a charged, paused self is not a part of what I'm talking about because they don't want to heal their trauma. They're continuing to project it and use it and actually be the men, women, and days that I don't respect and that I will fear because I don't stand a chance physically, and that I'm not ashamed to say so. I'm also intellectually superior to them if I wanted to be, but I don't know how to regurgitate material, so they're going to be able to bring to me stuff that I won't know how to do because they do linear. So I also don't really enjoy that time because that's really just a person who's not contributing to the whole. When you have somebody who's contributing to the whole, they like to meet people like us because they like to have fun, because they like to think and they like to feel, and they like to actually look at everything that's new. And they also don't feel that we have threatened anything from the past because they're not actually ignorant to the extent of thinking that your brain can fall out of your ass, thinking that men, women, or they have to expect to have certain roles. They don't close their ideas thinking the whole world needs to have more babies or less babies. They don't make their entire idea of what family should look like and entire communities out to the entire, whether it's a country or globe. That is a adaptive child, human being, who's actively thinking that they and their community, it's just not the flat earthers, might as well bring them in there. Okay, so here's that part of where, while they want to say that they know what the best for everybody is and use ancient textbooks, no, they know what they want and what they feel is the best way to create their community is a whole different story. If I need to break it down, health, I'm going to say mental health knows exactly how to bring health. Neuroscience, neurobiology, and it's somatic sensory motor. I mean, again, if I need to focus on where health is, I know who will bring it to the people. It's not the spirituality ones, no, not the biased and the ones who think that we don't have a self. The ones who work with scientists, the ones who work with therapists, the ones who work with the DID and discourse, all of the ones who work together, you see? Anytime we have ignorance, we have people who are choosing what they like and don't like. I'm pseudoscience lady because I can forget data, because I bring in other stuff, because I respect true data. When I meet somebody who's biased, I don't respect biases. I allow myself to leave it alone because I got an ignorant person who's going to be able to regurgitate to me a bunch of shit that I don't really care to hear because they lack the complete capacity to have an ego that has humble. And I don't want to do what ego is already bridled self-expression. I mean, come on. Excuse me, you're confusing science spirituality. This is the most boring conversation ever. That's why it's fun to find out who they are when they're working with their colleagues and all of that. No, you can avoid them. Avoid all of it because really they're boring people. So, masculines, feminines, theys, all of those of us who love to love and love to live, we get to be around each other here, and then we get to, patiently. Now, we don't have to do anything about the ones who don't learn how to love and live and laugh and learn and expand and not cast stones, because the reality is they're going to stay charged and paused, and they'll flip a switch the minute they have some shit go down. And so, you know what happens when someone flips it? Yoga brings demons out of you. Mindfulness people are all depressed. Christianity's horrible. Yoga's horrible. They just go from this nutrition, horrible, great, awesome. So whenever you see any of it, any interest, it's not. And there's a bountiful number of people who I've known throughout the years just flip and flop and flop. Flip flop they go. And so now they're at, again, the fourth wave of these twin flames. And the reality is Earth doesn't need us, but we have our twin flames. We have our soulmates who have a good time. Thank you for stopping by. Again, we'll be back with more food for thought, nothing more, nothing less. And as for my 5D mystics, though, those of you who resonate with some of the things you've heard, mentorship if you need it. And obviously for those who do personal development, for sure. But in the meantime, being yourself with love, it's really fun. So we're back with more. Have a good one.